Math 3, Unit 3, Section 6. Today we're talking about factoring by division. There are two different methods of division that we are going to specifically talk about today. And there is long division, which most of you have seen before in terms of regular numbers without variables. And then synthetic division, which is kind of a shortcut. Okay? I'm actually going to teach you a few different shortcuts today for multiple types of problems, which is probably going to make you guys happy. Okay. Now, there's one other thing right here, and it says that if you have a remainder of 0, the term is a factor. If the remainder is any other number than 0, then it's not a factor because you have a remainder, so it's not dividing it evenly. Okay? So we're going to start with long division. But in order to fully explain long division to you, I'm going to go to a regular long division problem, but don't jump ahead because each step in my long division process is going to fit with this one. Okay? So, for instance, if I had 370 divided by 5, how would you write that as a long division problem? Exactly. You would go 5 divides into 370. Okay? And again, don't go ahead. Okay? So now we're going to go over here to this side. So see how we're looking at pretty much the same thing? How am I going to write this one? See this one? Very good. X minus 1 divides into x squared plus 6x minus 7. Okay, so far is everybody good? Okay, remember, just bear with me. You've got this, I promise. Okay, now our next step here is if I were to go to this problem right here, we are always looking at the 5, and we kind of usually start with like the first number, but 5 can't go into 3, correct? Yeah. And so we go to 37. Okay, 5 goes into 37, and really we're saying 5 times what is close to 37? 37. And it's 7. Do we all agree with that? Yeah. Okay, don't go ahead. Just stop right there. So, on this side, you're always looking at the first two terms. Okay? And so here we're saying, remember how I said here, 5 times what is close to 37? Here you're saying x times what is going to be x squared? X. Does everybody agree with that? Okay. Now you know how here I didn't put the 7 above the 3? Okay. I'm going to put the x to match it up with the like term. So since I'm only multiplying by x, I'm going to line it up with the x term, and it's going to help us keep things organized. If I was multiplying x times x squared would give me x squared, I would line it up with the x squared term. But since it's x, I'm finding on here, well, where is it like? And that's where the like term is, so I'm putting the x above that term. Okay? Now going back here, 7 times 5 is 35, and we write that underneath. Again, don't go ahead. So guess what we're going to do over here? We're going to go x times x, which is x squared, but I have a minus 1. So you're going to actually multiply this to each term. So we went x times x is x squared, and we're going to go x times negative 1, which is negative x. Okay, so time out. It's very easy to ask questions, and I'm actually very good at answering them most of the time. So if we go back over here, we said 5 times what was close to 7, 5 times what was close to 35, and we said 7, and then we multiplied 7 times 5 and got that 35. Does everybody agree with that? Yeah. Over here, you're looking at your front two terms. X times what makes x squared? X. I'm doing the same thing. I have to multiply this x, but there's two terms here. So we multiply x times x, which is x squared, and we multiply x times negative 1, which is negative 1x, if you want to write the 1 there, or negative x. Okay? Are we better? Yeah. Maddie, you weren't listening to me, I don't think, again, but. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next step because we're going to keep repeating this, okay? So over here, what is your next step? What would you do next? You would subtract. No, we would subtract. Okay? And 37 minus 35 is what? 2. Guess what we're going to do over here? Now, this is where you have to be careful because we are subtracting this whole piece. So if I'm subtracting this whole piece, what happens to each of these?
Negative and positive.
Yeah, this one becomes a negative, and this one becomes a positive. So basically, when you're subtracting, whatever signs were there, they become the opposite when we're distributing that negative through. Okay? Now, the whole purpose here is that these should eliminate. Your first terms should eliminate. And they do. So that means I picked the right term to multiply by. What is 6x plus 1x?
7x.
7.
Okay. Well, we were subtracting, which is how this became a plus, because this became a minus and this becomes a plus, because you're subtracting the entire term. Now, what do you do next over here?
Bring down the 0.
Okay, bring down the 0. So guess what we're going to do over here?
Bring down the 7. Negative.
Bring it down.
Okay, now we go. 5 times what is 20?
4.
4.
4.
So over here, x times what is 7x?
7.
And specifically, is that a positive 7 or a negative 7?
A positive.
So we are going to write plus 7 because it's a positive 7. If we were multiplying by a negative 7, I would put minus 7. Okay? Now, we put that 4 there, and so we then went 4 times 5, right? Because you're going this. 4 times 5 is 20. What do I have to do here? 7 times x. So we're taking the 7 now and multiplying it over. 7 times x is 7 times negative 1 is. Okay. And then going back over here, once we multiplied, what are we supposed to do?
Find the answer.
Subtract. And 20 minus 20 is 0. What do I have to do over here? Subtract. But when you're subtracting here, I'm subtracting both terms, which makes this will be a minus and this one becomes a
Positive.
and these eliminate and these eliminate, and we have
So you just
0.
rewrote the 7x plus 7. Is that what you did?
okay, we're gonna do it.
7x minus 7.
Well, we're gonna do another example and we'll build on the knowledge you just had. But the answer is x plus 7. Okay? Now, I want you to actually understand what has happened. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite this problem here for just a minute. This is really x squared plus 6x minus 7 divided by x minus 1. Okay? Are you guys okay with this? Now, we would normally factor this, right? And so we factor this by finding our multiplication number, which is negative 7, and our adding number, which is 6. And what numbers will work?
1 and 7.
1 and 7 multiply to be 7. And what would we need to do in order to get a positive 6?
Make the 1.
Negative 1. So double check. These multiply to make a negative 7. Do these add to make a positive 6? Okay. So then I'm just going to rewrite this problem here. X squared plus 6x minus 7. Because of this, we break this down, correct? And we get x squared minus 1x plus 7x minus 7. Well, I'm just going to factor this out first, okay? So then we would factor by grouping. We take out an x, we're left with x minus 1. We take out a 7. We're left with x minus 1. Then these are our like terms, correct?
Yeah.
And so we get x minus 1, x plus 7. And this, yes, we're going to put over x minus 1. And do you see how these are like terms? They eliminate, and we're left with x plus 7.
What the heck? Bruh.
Okay.
Why did I not listen?
Why did I know?
Okay, so maybe a question is, well, let's just do it this way.
Yeah.
The reason why you can't always do it this way is because sometimes you're going to have a remainder and it doesn't actually work. And so you need to understand the long division because sometimes you will not have a remainder of 0. Now, we are going to go ahead and do a homework problem to practice this long division again. Okay, so, oh, do you guys want me to show you another shortcut with factoring?
Please.
Okay, do you see these numbers right here? And do you see how those answers became? Do you see any correlation?
No.
Oh, wow. Wow.
You know, you should have started off with this, Miss Alton.
Okay. Okay, now. That's okay. I'm going to show you. So, do you see how we found that when we did our multiplying and adding numbers, we got -1 and 7? When you get your final factor, it's x minus 1, x plus 7, positive 7. So you could go from this point to this point and skip this stuff. Okay? But, there's a but. And this is why I always am not sure if I want to teach shortcuts, is that it only works if there isn't a number in front here. If your coefficient is 1, is the only time it works. If the coefficient was 2 or 3 or 7 or any other number in front here, then you need to do the whole process. But if it's 1, you can do the shortcut. And you would show your work by having those numbers like that and then getting to here. So we will get a chance to practice the shortcut, but this is just so you can spend less time with factoring, okay? All right, are we good here? Okay, now, so take out your homework, and we are going to do problem number 2. Problem number 2. Using long division. Problem number 2, using long division. Shh, focus, please. Okay. So, to start here, we need to write our long division problem. Okay? So, we write that by x plus 5 divides into x squared minus 2x minus 48. Okay, this is your homework problem. Yes. So the first thing here is that we always look at our first 2 numbers. So I'm looking at x and x squared. And all we do is ask ourselves, x times what would make x squared? X. And we line it up with the like term. So I'm lining it up over the negative 2x because they're both x terms. Okay? Who remembers what my next step is here? You multiply. Good. So we're taking this x and we're multiplying it to each of these terms. Okay, when we were doing long division, there was only one term to multiply by, but here, because this has x plus 5, we have to multiply it to both pieces. So, x times x is x squared, and x times 5 is 5x. Let me draw our line. Now, what do we do next here? You have to subtract, okay? And when you're subtracting, we're subtracting both of these. So that means both of them have to get a minus. So this is going to be a minus, and this one is also going to end up becoming a minus. On our previous problem, it was a minus, so it became a plus, okay?
Wait, how did you switch it? How did
You made it.
Since I'm subtracting both terms. So I'm changing both of those signs. Just like in your long division, you know how you multiply and then you subtract the number?
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing, but I have two pieces I have to subtract. So both of them need a minus.
So
Okay?
it's like a roll?
Yes.
Stop, drop, and roll.
Well, what if it was already minus?
Then it'll become a plus, because if you have a minus and another minus, it becomes a
You just
plus.
switch the signs?
Yes. Just switch the signs.
What if one was a minus, one was a plus? You just switch it?
Both of them would switch the opposite.
Oh, got it.
Okay. So these eliminate. Negative 2x and negative 5x make
Negative 7x.
negative 7x. And what do I do next?
Bring down a negative 48.
Okay, so now we are still looking at our first terms. Okay, this time this is